Hello, this is me after I've edited this video. Just a quick warning that it's just over 30 minutes long. I've done a premiere because I know people enjoy going into the chat and chatting away, but if you don't want to watch a video that's 30 minutes long, then maybe you can go away and then come back another time and watch it in pieces or however you want. It's just I wanted to get all the details in on how to do this project. Alright, see you soon. Bye.
Now, that don't mean a thing. You tried so very hard, but you can fly on broken wings. See you leaving now, that don't mean a thing. But what it comes down to is nothing's really carved in stone. What it comes down to is no one wants to be alone. The sky, didn't want to risk the fall, didn't want to cry. Bananas. All I say, face to gray, I could be a better man.
Hello and welcome back to Temple Boy Turnings. I'm Steve, and in this video I'm going to show you how to do a very quick demonstration on turning stacked barrels. Lots and lots of barrels that look as if they're all stacked on top of each other, all jiggly wiggly, defying gravity, all from one piece of wood. Now I did one of these the other day. I did cheat. It was 3 pieces of wood where one barrel was on its side and then there was like the top of a barrel that it was all sat on. You can play with this as much as you want. There's no rules, it's fun. It's just a bit of fun. And the way I'm going to show you how to do these is using just one tool, just the parting tool, a diamond parting tool, parting beading tool, some people call them. And that's the only tool. I'm going to do no sanding. It's not very technical. It's kind of play it by ear, move it around. There's some things that you need to kind of keep in mind when you're doing it. But it's a fun project. And if you kind of know your way around the tools and you've been on the lathe for a little while and turning air doesn't scare you, give it a go. They're fun. They're a lot of fun and they look really cool. I'm going to do a lot of variations of this. I will probably do another video showing you how to hollow the top barrel. Because I hollowed the top barrel of my last one. So it looked as if the lid had popped off. I turned a lid and had it to the side. It looked empty. So the top barrel looked empty and then the rest of the barrels looked closed. So I might show you in another short video later on in the week or maybe next week how I hollowed the top barrel. Alright, so I'm going to get back to editing this and I'll see you downstairs in a minute. Alright, so for this demonstration I'm just using this piece of beechwood that was lying around. It's already been rounded off. It's 60mm round, which is about 2 1/4, I think, 2 1/4 inches, and it's 11 inches long. What's that? It's about 280-ish millimeters long. The important thing you need to remember when you're doing this project, anything stacked and off center, is that you've always got to bear in mind where the next barrel, in this case, is going to be situated from the first barrel that you do, and constantly thinking about your next barrel. Okay, so my first barrel will say we're going to turn here. It's going to always pass the center point of the blank. You don't have to, but for this demonstration we're going to. Okay, so our first barrel is going to be roughly about that big. Okay, I suppose it's going to be about 25mm. So that means that our center is going to be roughly here. We're not going to do any measurements measuring in or across because it doesn't matter. It still looks cool wherever these barrels are. Okay, so we're going to say roughly that center there, and then we're going to transfer that across here. Alright, so I'm just going to put my pencil here and I'm going to mark roughly straight along the blank, very roughly. I'm going to come across here, across the centre mark, and I'm going to go roughly the same distance from the edge. So I'm going to use my guesstimating pencil measurement, go down here, and that's going to be my centre. Literally just guesstimating. And they're going to be our first points for reference. Now it's worth saying at this point that it's always nice to have small live and drive centres if you can, with pins in the end, because you get a better hold and it's more accurate where you're going. It's not super important, but it's just a little bit easier when you're doing this kind of thing. I'm going to just I have these dividers, they've got points, and I'm just going to put my starting point, one there where we just marked, and one there. There you go. Okay, we're going to put these in the centres now. There we go. I'm going to tighten that up. There we go, all tightened down. And as you can see, that's off centre. And all we're going to use is a parting tool, a diamond parting tool, or a beading parting tool as some people call them. Now as long as you're locked down there and you're nice and tight, you can go at quite a good speed. And obviously with off centre, when you're turning air, the faster you go, the fastest speed obviously you go, the better the cut, because the wood's coming around faster. Alright, so we're just going to set up and we're going to just cut our first barrel. That's about 1200, and we're just going to go in here. Now you don't want to start cutting here, because obviously you need some space for the pins to sit, and you don't want to make it too thin because it's going to get flexible as you take away the meat. So come back over here and start your barrel a good distance, about an inch, 25mm from the end. Now you've got to remember your proportions. You want the barrel to be long enough that you can put rings on it and stuff like that to make it look like a barrel. Let's see, it's 25mm roughly round. We'll go probably about 40 or 45mm long, I'd say. Yeah, we'll go 45-ish mil long. Now obviously you can use other tools. You can use your spindle gouge, and or you can use scrapers, or you can use your carbide. You can use whatever you want. Any tool that you're comfortable with. I'm just showing how easy it would be just to do with a diamond parting tool. Almost round. I can see just at the top shadow there. That's about there. Now get it rough round first before you start worrying about the shape of the barrel, because obviously barrels kind of curve in at the top. go, we're round now. As you can see, we've gone round there now. That's going to be our first barrel. Now I'll start with this side because the camera can get in there, and I'll just show you how I form this side, and then I'll come over here. The camera won't pick that side up just quite as well. Still the same speed, about 1200. Okay, and I'm just going to slowly start using the left corner of my beading tool and taking some off there. Now remember, don't get this top wing here caught on the side of your material, so kind of come at a bit of an angle. Okay, and you can start just bringing your barrel shape down. You go a bit deeper here, and then drop it in. Now it's up to you how barrelly you go. I like to kind of make it a bit subtle. I don't go too mad. Now you're going to be taking more out of it anyway when you do your rings. You're going to go deeper. All right. Now with these ones, I'm going to go with a ring at the top. I'm just going to go the width of my parting tool. Like that, and I'll come over the other side as well and match it just so that it's even. There we go, and then I'm going to go one ring in the middle, so roughly the middle, and then I'm going to curve this away. Like that, to make it look barrel like, and then I'm going to come this side, do the same. There we go. Again, curve that in. I'm not going to worry too much about the finishing cut, and then you can just take the edges off of the rings too, like that. This side as well, and then this one. Now obviously when we get down this end, we're going to be chopping the top of this off. So now you would normally sand that. You can colour your rings. I've just got a marker here, I can just roughly do it here. So you can colour your rings. So there you go, that's our first barrel. You'd sand that up and you'd finish it a lot nicer than that. I've just, for demonstration purposes, just done it very quickly. But this is just more about the technique. And to show that it's not all that difficult. So that's our first barrel. We've got to now determine where our second barrel is going to go. Alright, so obviously we want the two barrels to be sitting on top of each other, and we want them to be staggered to give it a nice effect. So we've got to work out where the centre of our next barrel is going to be when it comes to your top barrel. Alright, so the centre of our barrel is going to be this edge of our next one. Okay, so it's pretty much going to be down the centre of the blank, like that. That's going to be our new centre point, and it doesn't matter whereabouts we put it, as long as we follow that centre mark down through our rough centre of our blank. Okay, and the same the other end. Going to be roughly about there. Draw that through. like so. So now what we're going to do, we're just going to determine whereabouts we're going to put it. So I think, to be honest with you, for this one we're going to go dead center. We'll just put it pretty much the centers, and we're going to go with that center of the blank, both ends, and do our next barrel. So I've done the same. I've braddled the ends in the centers, and we're going to put one there, making this look very awkward because I'm leaning over the camera. There we go, just there. It's still going to be a little bit off because I've only guessed the centres. I haven't really got the centres marked on this blank. So now we're going to start cutting our next barrel. Best thing to do now, so that we keep our proportions, get the final width. We did end up with 45mm. So mark 45mm along your blank. And just run your pencil around just roughly to give you a mark of where you are. Now obviously we're almost round here anyway, so there's not going to be much air. It's still going to chip a little bit because we're not exactly in centre, as I said. But what we need to do is we need to get the same thickness as this one. Again, to keep everything in proportion. So it might be a good idea just to grab your caliper, get your centre size, and open it up just a little bit bigger to give you a little bit of wiggle room. Okay, and then that's what we're going to bring our next barrel down to. We can go a little bit faster with this one because we're not as off centre. We're going to stay right at the very side of our last barrel. It helps because we've marked it black, and we're going to cut down. Don't go all the way down on your first cut. Work your way along, get your width, and take your time. Leave the line there so we know we're inside it. Okay. Now at this point you can turn off the lathe and you can see whereabouts you are. Okay. So we've started cutting into this one. Now, because this is a piece of art and it's a quick and dirty way of doing it, who's to say that all the barrels have to be the same size? Okay, you could just have different size barrels stacked. So don't worry if you've not done your measurements right, or if you think that I've messed up, it's not the same size barrel. Doesn't matter, work with it. So if this one ends up too fat, go a little bit longer, make it proportional so that the barrel looks correct, and go again, and then move up and go with your next barrel. It looks even better when they're all different odd shapes. Just go with it, have fun. This is all about having fun. It's not about being technical and having measurements right. It's just about sticking a bit of wood on the lathe and having fun and creating something different. And we'll continue. Still a little bit big at the top, but that's fine because now we're going to do our rings and we'll lose a bit of thickness anyway. So small ring at the top, small ring at the bottom. ring in the middle. There you go, 2 barrels on top of each other. Now don't worry about this slight chip out here. That's fine, you can get that with sandpaper again. You can sand along the top there at a later date, and you can clean that up a little bit. I think that's okay, that's kind of cool. I'll add my black lines in on this again, and then we'll decide where our next barrel is going to go. Okay, so we know this one's pretty much in the center. I think we could maybe skip forward this way and come this way a little bit. So that means that our center line is just going to be on the edge of this barrel to this side. So it's going to be just here. Alright, so we're going to draw our center mark there. Now we've got to remember to make sure that we've got enough that we can get the whole width of a barrel on there. Okay, so we're going to go around about there, I'd say. I'm going to take it off and I'm going to line that around and just make sure that it works out. That's what we're looking like at the moment. Alright, so we're going to go the center of this barrel, but we're going to come up here. So our barrel is going to be turned, in theory, just here. Our first one was here, our second one was here, and our third one's going to be jumped up here. Alright, so as long as we've got 25mm from there to the edge of the barrel, and then it's going to go past this center line, it's going to be sitting on this one, we can go anywhere we want. Alright, so it's going to be just a very rough one. Alright, so I'm just going to take my bradawl and I'm going to go probably around about there, just like that. And we've got to obviously bring that over to the other side. So I'm going to put my finger here, I'm going to roughly pencil that along there. I've already got a rough line there, through the center of that one, through the center of that one, and to there. I'm going to come down through the center again, through the center here, from the line I've just made. Do my rough pencil measurement. Very accurate this. Pencil measurement roughly about that much. I'm going to go down here, and it's about there. And then I'm going to bradawl it there again. There we go, and that's our 2 next points for our next barrel. That's us between centres. You can see where we're going to be cutting here. Cutting into this bark, that should be interesting, see what happens. Okay, so we're going to be taking this side away. And again, we're just going to go right down until we're round again. Keeping an eye as we're going. Keeping an eye that we're not going too thin and that we're not coming too far off of the next barrel. We want enough meat for it to hold. Also, when you're tightening this up, just remember that you haven't got as much meat here now, so you are going to have a little bit of flex as you tighten up your tailstock. Just be aware of that, don't over tighten it. Alright, again, we're going to measure our 45 along. Put our pencil mark around the best we can. It's a bit more difficult when it's off center. You could just roughly draw it. Be grand. Here we go. Let's go. I'm still turning about 1100 there. Again, we're going to come in here, right on the very edge of where our black line is. Start cutting in there. Now we're a lot more off centre here, so we're just going to take our time, do it nice and easy. I'm looking at the top shadow. There we go. And then you'd sand. That's cool. And we'll put our black lines on that. Again, you'd sand the top by hand. Take away all these little furries. Just sand it all up. We'll just put our black lines on there again. I'm going to go center on the bottom. And on the top, I'm going to come right over where we haven't been before, and I think I'll come about here. Again, being very careful how I squeeze this up, because we're getting weaker and weaker the more wood we take away. Let's go. Lean the tool over, and this way. A little wormhole there in our barrel. Cool. Your drunk worm. Okay, so as you saw, we didn't need to take too much before this was round, so we were quite on centre. But if you remember, our second barrel was on the centre too. We were dead on centre. But you can see that they're not in the same place. They look as if they should be on the centre, but this one is slightly angled to that one. That one's straight, and this one's kind of cocked up a little bit at the top, because we've gone centre and off centre. It's just twisted that barrel. Yeah, see how this looks a little bit weird here? You'll get that with sanding. So you'll sand this away where it's slightly thicker here. You'll sand that away, and you'll take away and make an illusion there that that barrel's straight. It's all in the sanding afterwards. And there we go, barrel number 5. Like I said, needs some sanding. I'll just colour those in black off camera, and we can have a look at it. 5 stacked barrels. As easy as that, using only one tool. While we've got this in the position for this barrel, we're going to cut down the bottom here. You'll get some vibration because all those joints are moving, those weak areas. Now get that down to, you know, a nice enough thickness of parting off. You're not going to part right off, you just want to kind of guide where you're going to cut it. And now we're going to go back to our original first one. So that was here and over here. And the way you'll know you've got it right is because when you spin it, the barrel that you're parting off will be running true. I think that's where it is. Again, don't over tighten it. Give it a spin and just make sure that the barrel that you're parting off is running true. A tip is that you can use different colours for the different barrels. So use a different coloured marker for the dots, kind of colouring the the bradawl marks with a different coloured marker, and each one will represent your barrel, your coloured barrel. You can do that. Mark on the wall or on a piece of paper somewhere which barrel goes with which colour. Make yourself a key and go from there. Just a rough guide, and then I can get my saw, get my little Japanese saw, and cut that flush, cut the other end flush, and that's that. There you go, cut those off. It should stand up because our bottom one was pretty parallel. And there you go, it's kind of cool. Whichever way you look at that, it looks different.
See you leaving now, that don't mean a thing. You tried so very hard.